All right. So, are you ready to dive deep into the world of jaguars?
Oh, I'm ready.
Today, we're going to be unpacking a cool YouTube video I found
Yeah.
called Top 10 Unusual Facts About Jaguars.
Okay.
And it's from this channel called Factly.
Okay. Cool.
And it's got some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I think, even if you think you know about jaguars,
Right.
I think there's probably some things you're going to learn today that might surprise you.
I'm excited.
So,
Yeah.
one of the things that this video starts right off the bat with
Right.
is the name itself, Jaguar.
Yeah.
And did you know that it comes from an indigenous word meaning kill with one leaf?
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting.
Like right away, that
Yeah.
sets the stage
Like that just sets the tone.
for this
Yeah.
powerful predator.
Like this is a serious predator we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, it makes sense when you think about their hunting strategy and physical build. Like, they're not built.
Right, they're not like cheetahs or anything. They're not built for speed and long chases.
No, they're not long and sleek.
No, they're much more stocky
Yeah, they're stocky.
and powerful.
So that one leap that they do, they have
Yeah.
to make sure it counts.
Yeah.
Right.
They got to get it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of power,
Uh-huh.
the video mentions that jaguars have the strongest bite force
Really?
of any big cat
Wow.
relative to their size.
It's incredible when you think about it.
I know.
Like the power that these animals have in their jaws.
It's amazing.
That's unbelievable.
And it's not just about like
Okay.
raw muscle.
It's not just brute force.
Right.
It's also about the structure of their skull and the leverage that they get.
I see.
Yeah. So they have these shorter, broader skulls compared to other big cats, which gives them this mechanical advantage, you know?
So shorter equals more power in this case.
Exactly. It's counterintuitive, but that's how it works.
That's really interesting. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
It's all about biomechanics.
Yeah.
And how evolution has just shaped these animals over time to become these perfect killing machines.
And I mean, like, think about it. Like, the force that's required to pierce
I know.
the armored skin of a caiman.
Or crush a turtle shell.
Or, yeah, crush a turtle shell. I mean,
It's incredible.
it's hard to even comprehend
Yeah.
that kind of power.
Yeah.
And speaking of interesting adaptations,
Uh-huh.
the video brings up panthers,
Okay.
which I always found a little confusing.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Can you help clear that up?
Of course.
So what is a panther?
Well, the term panther, it actually doesn't refer to a separate species.
That's
It's more of a color variation, and it's called melanism.
Melanism.
Yeah, and that basically results in a really dark coat
Okay.
because of this increased melanin pigment.
I see.
So you'll see it in leopards and jaguars.
Oh, so a black jaguar could be called a panther.
Exactly. It's like having different hair colors in humans.
Right.
It's just a genetic variation.
It's all about the genes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, the only real exception to this is the Florida panther,
Okay.
which is actually a subspecies of cougar.
Got it.
It's not a jaguar or a leopard.
Okay. That's good to know.
So-
So it's like a genetic quirk, not a separate species.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now,
Yeah.
here's something that really surprised me from the video.
Okay, what's that?
Jaguars love water.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Most cats hate getting wet.
Right, they do.
These guys are totally different.
They're amazing swimmers, actually.
Wow.
And they use water to their advantage when they hunt.
So they'll just go right into the water.
Oh, yeah. They love to wade into rivers and wetlands.
And what do they hunt in the water?
All sorts of things. Fish turtles, even caimans.
Caimans.
Yeah,
Wow.
they're not afraid of anything.
So I guess all that bite force comes in handy underwater, too.
Oh, absolutely.
It's fascinating.
Their whole bodies are just designed for hunting.
It's
From their physical adaptations to their hunting strategies to their habitat preferences.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
They're really versatile.
Yeah, they can exploit a wide range of food sources, both on land and in the water.
That's incredible.
Isn't it?
It's like they've really carved out this niche for themselves.
Yeah, they've become the masters of these watery domains.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But the video also mentions that they're solitary creatures,
Right.
which seems like a tough way to live,
Yeah, it can be.
you know?
But that's just how they've evolved to survive.
Yeah.
You know, they're fiercely territorial, and they typically live alone, except during mating season or when they're raising cubs.
I see.
And this solitary nature, it's linked to their hunting style.
Oh, how so?
Well, they're ambush predators.
Right.
They rely on stealth and surprise.
I see.
And that works best when you're working alone.
That makes sense.
You don't want to give away your position to a potential competitor.
Right.
So they're kind of like the lone wolves of the rainforest.
Yeah, each carving out their own territory.
Exactly.
And how do they communicate with each other if they're so spread out?
Well, they use scent marking
Oh, yeah.
and vocalizations to
Yeah.
kind of let each other know where they are and what they're up to.
But for the most part, they lead solitary lives.
For the most part, yeah.
And that can be challenging, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially as their habitat shrinks.
Right.
Because of human activity.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It makes it harder for them to find the resources they need.
Right.
And to avoid conflict with other jaguars.
So that's a major threat to them.
It is a huge threat.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest challenges they face today.
And we'll talk about that more in just a minute.
Okay, sounds good.
So it's a major threat to them.
It is a huge threat.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest challenges they face today.
And we'll talk about that more in just a minute.
Okay, sounds good.
But before we get to that, I'm curious about those vocalizations that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, how do the roars sound different between males and females?
It's really interesting, actually. The male roar is often described as like a bark, followed by this deep growl.
Oh, wow.
It's really resonant, almost like a challenge to the world,
I see.
Whereas the female's roar is higher pitched. It's more like a series of coughs.
So it's like a canine sound versus a feline sound.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's interesting.
And it's not just roars.
Okay.
Jaguars actually use a whole range of vocalizations.
Oh, wow.
From hisses and growls to this sort of nasal chuffing sound.
What's a chuffing sound?
It's almost like a greeting.
Oh, interesting.
It's kind of cute, actually, when you see them do it.
So it's like they have their own secret language.
Yeah, it's like a symphony of sounds hidden within the rainforest.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It really is amazing.
So they use those sounds to communicate with each other.
Even when they're not mating.
Right, even when they're just kind of going about their daily lives.
I see.
They're letting each other know where they are, what they're up to.
So they're not completely isolated.
No, they're not. They're still connected in a way.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like this invisible network that's always operating in the background.
I like that.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
So we were talking about them being solitary and how that affects their mating and cub rearing.
Right.
Well,
what happens when they do find each other and mate?
Well, the female jaguar actually takes on the sole responsibility of raising her young.
Oh, wow. So the males don't stick around?
Nope, they're out of there.
Really?
Yeah, they don't participate in parental care at all.
Wow. So she's basically a single mom.
Pretty much.
That's got to be tough.
It is incredibly tough.
Especially in such a wild environment.
Yeah, she has to protect her cubs from predators, teach them how to hunt, prepare them for a life of independence.
That's a big job.
It's a huge job, and it's only getting harder with habitat loss and human encroachment.
That's a good point.
You know, it's amazing how resilient these creatures are.
Yeah, they really are.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Raising your young alone in a habitat that's shrinking, all while competing with other predators and trying to avoid humans.
It's impressive.
It's a testament to their evolutionary success.
Absolutely.
And it's also a reminder that we need to step up our conservation efforts.
I agree.
We need to do everything we can to protect these animals and their habitat.
Absolutely.
Because they're facing some serious challenges.
Yeah.
And their future really depends on us.
That's a sobering thought.
It is, but it's also a call to action.
Right.
We can't just sit back and watch these magnificent creatures disappear.
So we've talked about the threats they face.
Yes.
But I wanted to circle back to something we mentioned earlier.
What's that?
Their amazing night vision.
Oh, yes.
The video mentioned that they have a special layer in their eyes.
Right, the tapetum lucidum.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like having built-in night vision goggles.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So can you explain a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, so basically it's this reflective layer behind the retina.
Okay.
And it bounces light back through the eye, giving the photoreceptor cells a second chance to capture those photons.
So it's like amplifying the available light.
Exactly, and that's what allows them to see so well in low light conditions.
That's amazing.
An incredible adaptation.
So while we're fumbling around in the dark,
Right.
they're seeing the world in vivid detail.
Yeah, it's like they have a superpower.
It really is.
And it makes them incredibly effective nocturnal hunters.
That makes sense.
You know, they can stalk their prey with incredible precision, even in the deepest shadows of the rainforest.
It's fascinating.
It really is.
So we've talked about their night vision. We've talked about their hunting strategies.
Right.
And the video also mentioned that adult jaguars have very few natural predators.
That's true.
So if they're at the top of the food chain,
Yeah.
what are the biggest threats to their survival?
Well, that's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
Even though they're apex predators, their biggest threat comes from us.
Humans.
Humans, exactly.
It's sad, but it's true.
It is. We've talked about habitat loss and human-wildlife conflict,
Right.
but it's easy to forget that our actions have such a profound impact on these creatures.
Yeah, we don't always think about the consequences.
Right, and it's not just about jaguars either.
That's true.
It's about the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Their decline is a symptom of a much larger issue.
The destruction of ecosystems.
Exactly, and the loss of biodiversity worldwide.
It's all connected.
It really is.
The fate of jaguars is intertwined with the health of their ecosystems.
Right.
And that in turn affects us all.
Absolutely. We depend on these ecosystems for so many things.
Clean air, clean water.
Food, medicine,
Right.
climate regulation.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
So protecting jaguars isn't just about saving a single species. It's about preserving the intricate web of life that supports us all.
Exactly. That's what we need to remember.
Now, speaking of jaguar conservation,
Yeah.
the video mentions a place called the Pantanal
Oh, yes, the panhandle.
as being a vital stronghold for the species.
It is a crucial habitat for them.
So why is this particular region so important for jaguars?
Well, the Pantanal is the world's largest tropical wetland.
Wow.
It spans parts of Brazil, Bolivia, and Paraguay.
That's huge.
It's a vast area, and it's incredibly biodiverse.
I see.
And for jaguars, it's a haven.
Okay.
It offers them this vast, relatively undisturbed habitat, abundant prey,
Yeah.
and ideal conditions for raising cubs.
So it's like a jaguar paradise. You could say that.
Wow.
It's one of the few places on Earth where they can truly thrive.
That's great.
The Pantanal's unique mix of wetlands, grasslands, and forests
Yeah.
creates this mosaic of habitats
Right.
that supports a remarkable density of jaguars.
It sounds idyllic.
It is a beautiful place.
But I imagine even a place like the Pantanal faces threats. Unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah.
Even this incredible ecosystem isn't immune to human activity.
Of course not.
The Pantanal is facing increasing threats from agricultural expansion, deforestation, unsustainable development.
It's a familiar story.
It is, sadly.
Human progress often comes at the expense of nature.
It's a delicate balance,
Yeah.
and we need to find ways to develop sustainably without jeopardizing these private ecosystems.
Right?
Think about it. Deforestation fragments jaguar habitat.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for them to find mates and disperse.
Right.
Agricultural runoff pollutes waterways, which affects the entire food web.
It's a chain reaction.
It is one negative impact amplifying the next.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's why protecting the Pantanal is so crucial.
Okay.
It's not just about saving jaguars.
Got it.
It's about safeguarding a vital ecosystem that
Yeah.
supports countless species and provides invaluable services to humans, like water purification and carbon storage.
So it benefits us, too.
Absolutely. We're all interconnected.
That's a great point.
We need to start thinking about the long-term consequences of our actions
Right.
and make sure that we're not destroying the planet for future generations.
Well, this has been an eye-opening conversation.
It has been, hasn't it?
We've learned so much about jaguars.
Yeah, it's incredible how much there is to learn about these animals.
It's been inspiring
Absolutely.
and a little bit sobering,
Yeah.
but I think the key takeaway here
Yeah,
is that their fate is intertwined with our own.
that's right.
What we do today will determine the future of these magnificent creatures.
And it's not just jaguars, it's the entire planet.
That's true.
We need to make some changes if we want to ensure a healthy future for ourselves and for all living things.
So what can we do?
Well, there are a lot of things we can do.
Right.
First of all, we need to educate ourselves about the issues,
Right.
learn about the threats that jaguars face, the importance of their habitat,
Okay.
the role they play in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Once we understand the problem, we can start to find solutions.
That makes sense.
And there are a lot of great organizations out there doing amazing work to protect jaguars and their habitat.
Like who?
Well, there's the Wildlife Conservation Society, the World Wildlife Fund, Panthera.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Panthera.
They're all doing fantastic work.
Yeah.
So we can support these organizations by donating our time or money.
Right.
We can also make choices in our daily lives that
Yeah.
can help protect jaguars and other wildlife.
Like what?
Well, we can choose sustainable products,
Okay.
reduce our consumption,
Yeah.
be mindful of our impact on the environment.
Right.
Every little bit helps.
It all adds up.
Exactly.
So we need to act now
Yes, we do.
before it's too late.
It's time to take responsibility for our actions
Right.
and make sure that we leave a healthy planet for future generations.
Well said.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of jaguars.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been fascinating.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I learned a lot.
I'm glad.